Today's webinar is entitled Common Application for Rising Seniors. We will have a large number of participants in the webinar today, so everyone's phone has been muted on entry. Please leave your phone on mute so your colleagues can hear the presentation clearly. We do look forward to answering your questions online and will use the chat feature for that purpose. We will wait until the end of the presentation before we answer your questions, but you can submit a question at any time during the presentation. The chat feature is located on the menu bar at the top of your screen. Click the chat icon. Type your question into the chat dialog box, select all from the drop-down, and click Send or Enter. In today's webinar, our hope is that you will be able to learn what the Common Application is, the importance of using the Common Application to apply to colleges, hear how to apply strategies and use tools that can assist your rising seniors, which are your juniors, and families successfully complete the admission process using the Common Application tool. Review College Board's and lastly, we'll review College Board's College Application Fee Waiver Program. Now I'd like to introduce our webinar presenters and our agenda for today's webinar. But first, before I do that, I am Jennifer Dunn, Director at the College Board in the Membership Mobilization and Engagement Unit, and I'll be your moderator today. Our first presenter is a representative from Common Application. Tanya, Director of Outreach at Common App, will provide us with useful information about the use of the Common App to assist your students in applying to college, but most importantly, discuss how to use it as a tool for your rising seniors. Tanya brings with her 16 years of college counseling and college admission experience. She has a BA in psychology and a master's in college counseling. Now I'd like to introduce our next presenter, Kevin, Senior Director at the College Board Higher Ed Research Partnership. Kevin has been at the College Board since 2011. He works in the Higher Ed Division, supporting a variety of efforts to increase college access among under-resourced students. He helps to coordinate the College Board's delivery of college application fee waivers to low-income students. Thank you both for participating in today's webinar. Before I introduce Tanya from Common App, please don't forget to submit a question using the chat feature on the top of your screen. You can submit a question at any time during the presentation. Tanya, you can go ahead and take it away.
Great. Thank you so much for inviting us to participate in this webinar. We are so excited to be able to present this information to school counselors. We know how hard you work, and we appreciate everything that you do to help students reach their goals. Each year, 1 in 3 high school students utilize the Common Application to apply to college. We're going to go over 3 important points today. First and foremost, what is the Common Application? Why should you use the Common Application to help your students? And then how can you use it to support your students as they apply to college? So first off, what is the Common Application? 40 years ago, 15 very forward-thinking deans and directors got together and decided to create a shared application that would allow students to apply to their institutions using one form. They wanted to increase access, they wanted to reduce some of the friction in the college admissions process, and they truly wanted to make things easier for students and for counselors. Today, we have more than 500 colleges and universities as part of our membership. Members are all across the country with 47 states and the District of Columbia, plus 7 countries represented. Several years ago, we added public institutions into the membership, and right now we have more than 80 public institutions represented. There are a wide variety of schools, ranging from liberal arts colleges to more specific schools that are more professionally focused, but there's a wide variety of schools for a wide variety of students. Over the last 5 years, we've seen steady and significant increases in the numbers of students utilizing the Common Application. And with the increase in students using the application, there's also been a significant increase in the numbers of counselors and teachers that are using the Common Application recommender forms to submit forms in support of their students. The average number of applications submitted by students utilizing the Common Application has remained pretty consistent at about 4 applications per student. There's a wide range of diversity in the applicants that are utilizing the application. Last year, we had over 813,000 unique applicants. About 54% of those students were female, 61% of those students were Caucasian, 30% of the students who used the application designated themselves as students of color. About 9% of the students were international, and almost a third of the students were first generation. We are so pleased to see an increase in the number of first generation students, students coming from low socioeconomic backgrounds that are able to use the application. We feel very strongly that this is the first step in access and the first step in them making a difference in not just their lives, but the lives of their families. So why should you use the Common Application? First and foremost, using the Common Application saves time. Students are able to very quickly put their information into the application, and they're able to invite a counselor to submit transcripts and recommendations. It just makes the process a lot smoother. It will save you money also in terms of sending out documents from your counseling office. I think saving money is always a good thing, but it will definitely save you time in the application process as you're assisting your students. The application is very comprehensive. It allows students to very fully tell their story. So between the activities that they can list and the most meaningful activities that they're able to share with colleges, to the opportunities that they've had in their school, including writing an essay that can really convey their unique story to the colleges, it allows students to fully explain who they are. I mentioned online document submission. As a former school counselor, I loved being able to submit documents electronically. It saved me time, and I could be sure that the colleges had received the information in a timely fashion. For students, the application is one and done. Once they complete the application, it can be submitted to a number of colleges very easily. Most colleges do have some additional information they might be asking, but those students have the core of the application completed, and then they can add the supplemental information as necessary. And colleges that are members of the Common Application pledge each year that they will not give preference to any of the applications that they use. So if they have their own institutional application, it will be treated exactly the same way in the admissions process as the Common Application. The Common Application allows for students to ask for fee waivers in order to make the application process not a burden. Members of the Common Application do not want the application process to be an unnecessary burden to families. 217 of our member institutions actually don't charge an application fee at all for applicants living in the United States. There are some very simple questions that students are able to answer that helps to determine if they qualify for a need-based fee waiver. If a student does indicate that they qualify for a need-based fee waiver, then the counselor has an opportunity to confirm that that indeed is the case, and then the fee waiver goes through. So then next we're going to talk about how you can use the Common Application to support your students. When you're working with sophomores and juniors, the Common Application can be used as an advising tool. You can use it as a starting point to discuss factors that are important to colleges. So colleges are going to be looking at students' activities, their extracurriculars, they'll look at their coursework, and those are all parts of the Common Application that students are completing. So it functions as a nice starting place for that conversation. Counselors can create mock applications for mock application workshops to use with their students and their parents to train them about the admissions process. And then the essay prompts. The essay prompts can be used by students in their sophomore, junior year to start thinking about what's important to them in their lives that they'd like to share with colleges. So regardless of what the essay prompts are, there's basic information that students want to be able to convey to colleges, who they are, what's important to them. And the essay prompts allow students to provide that information. We anticipate that information about the essay prompts for the 2015-16 year will be available toward the end of March. So just in case anyone's wondering about that. These are the essay prompts from the current academic year. They were introduced in the 2013-14 cycle, and they were actually new for the Common Application that year. A lot of thought and a lot of conversation went into coming up with 5 questions that a variety of people, members, college counselors, felt would be able to assist students in conveying their unique stories. The application process has 3 different parts to the application. So, and each user of the application has a different set of forms that they're responsible for. So students are responsible for submitting their application. They're responsible for writing their essay and submitting answers to all the questions on the application that colleges are most interested in. If a college allows for a resume to be uploaded, then those are parts of the application that are the student's responsibility. The counselor submits a school report form, transcripts, and a letter of recommendation. And then teachers submit their letters of recommendation. And those are all 3 parts are done separately in different parts of the Common Application system. I strongly encourage counselors to create a sample account to test the system. That's one of the biggest questions I get from my colleagues. They ask, well, how can I see what the students see? You can very easily create a sample account. But I would encourage you, when you do that, to use a personal email address or your non-school email address to do that. The system has some checks and balances in place to make sure that someone who has an applicant account also does not have a recommender account. So we encourage students to use an email address that they're going to use frequently, check frequently, and to create a secure password that is between 8 and 16 characters. Another question that we get very often is about FERPA and the FERPA release. Students are concerned that they are waiving their rights to something very important, and it is very important. What students sometimes don't understand is that they would not be able to immediately review their letters of recommendation anyway. So even if a student does not waive their FERPA rights, they could only view their letters of recommendation after they get to college, and if that institution saves the documents past a student's enrollment. Colleges are not required to save letters of recommendation that are sent on a student's behalf. So the question becomes, why should a student consider waiving their rights to access that information? Colleges know first and foremost when a student waives their rights that the student will never try to read that letter of recommendation. And because of that, they then can trust that the recommendation is going to be candid and very truthful. Some high schools and some recommenders actually decline the request to submit a letter if a student has not waived their rights. And some colleges may disregard the letter entirely if a student has not waived their rights. So all things that should be discussed with students as they're making that decision. So recommender accounts. Another very frequently asked question that I get from counselors and from teachers, particularly the counselors that want to get a jump on starting their recommendations, is they want to know how can they open their account. Recommender accounts are student initiated. Students invite their counselors and their teachers to submit documents on their behalf. A counselor or a teacher recommender will receive an email with instructions that will prompt them to create an account. Within that account, for the counselor, there's actually 3 different parts on the dashboard. There is a recommender profile, there is a school profile, which gives counselors the opportunity to upload actually a PDF of their school profile, and then there's individual student information. For recommenders that are at schools using Naviance eDocs, there is a different process that they follow. So these are some screenshots of the counselor screens. So we mentioned the counselor profile screen where you'll provide basic information about yourself and some general school information. And then there's the student dashboard, and that lists all the students that have invited the recommender to submit information. So all the students will be listed in one area for easy reference. It also provides a nice little list of what documents need to be submitted and what documents have already been submitted, so you can keep track of your workflow. Here's my favorite screen in the entire counselor dashboard. Counselors can view deadlines that students have, submissions of the students, and when the colleges have downloaded individual forms. So this is actually a screenshot of a real student and their My Colleges list. So it lists the college, how they applied, it lists the date that documents were submitted by the student and by yourself, and then the right-hand side shows when the colleges actually downloaded the forms. And it also indicates when teachers submitted their letters of recommendation as well. So this is a wonderful opportunity for counselors to feel secure that colleges have indeed received information. Another screen that becomes very important for counselors is the individual student workspace. And that's where counselors input the student's class rank. It allows them to input the student's GPA, their courses, provide information about any disciplinary history that needs to be shared. It's where a counselor would upload a written evaluation as well as the transcript. There's a lot of help out there when counselors need it. Our support team is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week during our application season. So our help team responds to applicant and recommender submitted questions. And on the screen we provide the 2 links that give you kind of a shortcut into this area. This year we actually introduced something new for counselors using the Common Application Recommender system. We introduced live chat that was available Monday through Friday during, I believe during peak season it was between 12 and 8. So it allowed us to catch the times when the bulk of our counselors would be working. So sometimes there are questions that you need a really quick answer for, and the live chat allowed that to happen. Also, our support pages included an extensive library of frequently asked questions. Average response time this year was very quick. On average, during peak times for applicants, they received a response in about 15 minutes, and recommenders received a response in about 21 minutes. This year, live chat was a pilot, and we wanted to see how much it was used and whether we'd be able to expand it to other groups. And so those are conversations that we're currently having internally to decide whether that's something that we can expand. Our website has a lot of quick resources for counselors. So on the main page of the Common Application website, there's a list of member institutions. Within the Help Center that's access for any school counselor or independent counselor, regardless of whether they have an account, a recommender account or not. We have videos that can be used to train students on how to set up an account, how to add colleges to their dashboard. We have a video that we put together with Naviance that actually shows students how to do the match within Naviance and the Common Application. So that was really helpful this fall. We also have a PDF of the most recent version of the Common Application that counselors or students could print off to help them get a sense of the application, and that's something that gets updated every summer. We also have a requirements grid. This year, the colleges had the option to move some of the questions that had traditionally been on a supplement page to their member screen. And so that did cause a little bit of confusion. And so we came up with a requirements grid that would allow students to be able to figure out where questions would fall for individual colleges. There's also a basic guide document that gives students kind of some quick tips to get started with the application. We have a blog that students and counselors and parents can use. We have very helpful articles, and it's also where we'll be releasing information about any updates to the essay prompts closer to the end of the month. So key takeaways. The Common Application, it really facilitates the application process for you and your students. Please know that application fees should not be a burden to the students who are applying to college, and the Common Application membership is broad and rich and very diverse. And we provide help and support to students and recommenders when they need it as quickly as possible.
Tanya, that was great. We actually had a number of questions that are have been coming in, and so we're definitely going to get to the Q&A. We're going to go ahead and let Kevin give his information about the access to opportunity and the college fee waivers, but I just want to reiterate that the presentation and the recording of the webinar will be sent to within 3 to 4 days after the webinar. And also the essay prompt, I know when I was a school counselor, I used those with my English teachers to help 10th graders and my 11th graders to get started, and also using the application just to help students, especially first-generation students, to get acclimated to the admission process or the application process. So thank you so much. That was great. Now I'd like to introduce Kevin, Senior Director at the College Board, who will talk about an initiative that is part of our Access to Opportunity. Kevin?
Thanks very much, Jennifer, and thanks, Tanya. Tanya spoke about ensuring access for low-income students and making sure that application fees weren't a barrier for them. So we thought this would be a good opportunity to connect with a discussion on some recent changes to the College Board's College Application Fee Waiver Program and give you some information that could be helpful to supporting you and your students. What I'm about to talk about today applies not just to Common App colleges, but also to over 2,000 participating institutions who have committed to ensure that college application fees are not a barrier for low-income students. Giving you a little bit of background, I think most of you are familiar with the College Application Fee Waiver Program going back many years, where students who took the SAT with a fee waiver could get college application fee waivers from their counselor. We made an important change to that this past year, and we wanted to provide a little bit of context for why that change was made. And it's based on some underlying research. One piece of research that we relied upon shows that students that are low income that have similar academic credentials to their higher socioeconomic peers apply to fewer colleges. And that's likely not a surprise to anyone here on the phone. There are a number of reasons why, but we know that one of the reasons is that application fees can be very expensive for students. And further, we know that although college application fee waivers are available to students, they're not really being utilized to the same extent that we might expect. One study found that only 1 in 3 students who were eligible to use college application fee waivers were actually making use of them. And part of that is awareness and students knowing that they have access to that benefit. Part of it is just taking that extra step in procuring the application fee waiver. A second piece of research that we looked at was related to a pilot program that showed that students who were provided direct access to fee waivers, to college application fee waivers, were more likely to submit at least 3 applications and enroll in college. So we looked at that data and we saw a great opportunity to enhance and improve our existing program. So many of you are familiar with the past program where counselors were provided fee waivers, college application fee waivers, to provide to their students. And the change we made was that for every student who takes the SAT using a fee waiver, we'll deliver 4 college application fee waivers directly to those students via their online account. Since the students have already been verified one time by their counselor as being eligible when they receive the SAT fee waiver, we took the step to put the college application fee waivers directly in students' hands to streamline the process for both students and counselors. A little bit more detail on the delivery of the college application fee waivers. So students who are in the class of 2016 will receive the fee waivers. If they're seniors, they'll receive the fee waivers when they receive their scores. So it's important to know that students must not only register for the SAT using a fee waiver, but they also must test with that fee waiver, and then they'll receive the college application fee waivers when they receive their scores, usually about 19 days after the test date. Students that are juniors and sophomores right now that take the SAT or one of the SAT subject tests using a fee waiver, they'll receive messaging about their eligibility to receive college application fee waivers, but they won't actually receive their fee waivers until the beginning of their senior year, where they're beginning to think about the college application process. But we're doing as much as we can to inform them that they should plan ahead and start searching for colleges that accept those application fee waivers, even if they're a junior and not yet at the point of actually applying. We're continuing to supply a small quantity of paper college application fee waivers to counselors. We know this is a change for many counselors and for students, so it takes some time to get used to that change. We wanted to make sure we provide a backup in case students are having trouble accessing their fee waivers online. So those fee waivers will come to counselors as part of the summer fee waiver allocation mailing in August. If you need additional fee waivers or supplies, you can contact our SAT Educator Helpline at 888-SAT-HELP. But we do ask that you work with your students to first determine whether they receive their fee waivers online via their SAT account. And I want to show you a couple screenshots of where students can access their college application fee waivers so you can assist them in that. The first screenshot in the upper left-hand corner shows the student's SAT account. It's the same place that they would go to conduct their other SAT-related activities, such as registering for the SAT or sending their scores, etc. There is an alert that you'll see on the third alert, which will always be there for students that are eligible to receive college application fee waivers, that says that they can apply to college for free. And they are eligible to use up to 4 college application fee waivers. Clicking on that link will take them to the screenshot in the lower right-hand corner, which has a number of different features to it. One is that they can print out their college application fee waivers for their application so that they can mail them in. There's a second feature where students can search for the colleges that accept the college application fee waivers, and I'll talk about that more in just one second. And then they can also get some additional info about the process and answers to some frequently asked questions that they might have. The search feature is an important addition this past year, to the fee waiver program. This will allow students to determine whether or not a college participates in the program, and we do have broad representation across over 2,000 colleges, but not every college participates, so it's important for students to verify whether the college will actually accept the college application fee waivers that they receive. They can also look to see if there's any special policies or criteria for a particular school in their acceptance of fee waivers. Some schools will only accept fee waivers from in-state students, and so those schools will be notated on this search feature. Thirdly, they can search for any special submission instructions that a college may have. For instance, some may ask that the students submit their fee waivers via email or some other method. If not otherwise stated, the procedure is that students would print and mail their college application fee waivers to the college unless otherwise noted. But there are a number of colleges that have asked for alternative ways for students to supply their application fee waivers. And that's all available through this search tool, which is available. And you can also look along with your students by going to www.collegeboard.org/waiver-colleges. Since Tanya spoke about the Common App, I wanted to provide some specific information about how students should apply using fee waivers for the Common App. And the Common App has a very specific process for students who would like to apply using a fee waiver. If the student has received or is eligible to receive an SAT fee waiver, they're able to apply to any Common App college without a fee. Pretty early on in the application, there's a question that asks whether the student's financial circumstances qualify them for a fee waiver. If they have received an SAT fee waiver, then they should indicate that in response to that question. As Tanya mentioned, that will kick off a process where high school counselors will be asked to verify the student's eligibility for receiving a fee waiver. Now, in some cases, Common App colleges may ask students to enter the unique code found on their College Board fee waiver or upload an electronic copy of their fee waiver. That would be done via the member screens towards the end of the process, and it's, I would say, in rare cases currently, but there is no need to send a hard copy of the College Board fee waiver unless instructed to do so. Finally, to note that this process is unique to Common App colleges. So students that are applying to colleges that do not accept the Common App may use up to 4 of these College Board fee waivers with colleges that do not participate. I want to show an image of the forms that students receive. So on the left-hand side is an image of the form that the students would receive online, the college application fee waiver form. And one of the things you'll notice is that the student's name is in big bold letters at the top of the fee waiver with a message of encouragement about congratulations on their success in high school and encouraging them to take the next step in applying to college. It will also pre-fill information on the address and their date of birth. If their address has changed, they are very easily able to go to their College Board account and make the updates to their address there, and those address changes will be reflected real time when they go back to print their college application fee waivers. Another important feature of this form to note is the signature line. We, in this past year, had a number of cases where students did not sign the fee waivers, and it caused some going back with colleges to ask students to sign them and some delay in getting their applications processed. So please work with your students to make sure that they're signing their college application fee waivers, and we are making that a more prominent line so students are less likely to miss it this year when they're going through and submitting their waivers. The last feature I would note about the form is that there's a unique code in the lower at the bottom of the fee waiver, and this is sometimes used when colleges in their online applications have asked that students provide the code rather than sending in a paper copy of their college application fee waiver. On the right-hand side is just an image of the paper application fee waiver forms that are available through counselors, and I mentioned that earlier. Please only provide those in case students have trouble accessing their fee waivers online. A couple notes on some changes to the SAT school day policy with respect to college application fee waivers. So students that participate in the school day accounts are eligible to receive non-registration fee waiver benefits, including free score sends, additional free score sends, and college application fee waivers. Although historically, usage has not been very high because students are getting their tests paid for by their state or district, and so therefore don't often seek out the non-registration fee waiver benefits that might be available to them. So starting this past fall, we have separate fee waiver mailings sent to schools participating in SAT School Day, and those will be sent approximately 2 weeks prior to each test date. The fee waiver cards will be branded as score reporting fee waivers to SAT School Day eligible students. Counselors should distribute those cards to students who meet the fee waiver eligibility criteria, the same criteria that would make them eligible for an SAT fee waiver. When the students receive those cards, there will be a code that they can use and enter directly into the score sending module on their SAT account. That will allow them to both order their 4 free score sends and get tagged to receive the college application fee waivers directly to their account. So as soon as they enter their code, they'll have access not only to their score sends, but also to their college application fee waivers at the time that they're applying to college, which is in their senior year. QAS and SAS answer service can be ordered by calling into customer service. And these changes will hopefully increase access to the non-registration fee waiver benefits for all eligible students, and that's something we do plan to monitor in very closely. So in summary, in case you do have questions, I mentioned this earlier, but to reiterate the SAT Educator Helpline, the number is 888-SAT-HELP. And that's available Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. And we also have an email address, which is sat.help@info.collegeboard.org. So in case you do have questions, we encourage you to call in, and we'll do our best to address any issues that you might be facing. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Kevin. We had a number of questions come in, and I know, Tanya, you just chatted me saying that you have some questions that you really wanted to answer that you picked out. Is that correct?
Yes, I do. Thank you so much for all these great questions. First and foremost, I know one of the counselors or one of our participants asked how you can determine which colleges and universities within the Common Application don't have an application fee. So within the Common Application, on the main page before you've logged in, up along the top of the web page, there are several links, and one of them is members. And in that drop-down area, you can actually find a list of deadlines for the member colleges, and in addition to that, it also lists what their application fees are. You can do a sort because it's a sortable list, and so you could actually sort by application fee in the same way that you could actually sort by deadline to see which colleges and universities are still accepting applications. But you can definitely sort by application fee amount, and that would give you a very quick way of seeing which colleges don't have a fee. There were quite a few questions from our Naviance counselors about kind of working with the Common Application, and some of them had to do with support. So there are a couple things that you can do. First and foremost, now that you know that I exist, and because my job is to work as a link between our counselors and the Common Application, you are certainly welcome to reach out to me directly. But then also, there's a link that will allow you to get onto our help page, and that's RecSupport, R-E-C support.commonapp.org. And that's a direct link into our recommender support area. So there's resources there, but then also there's an opportunity where you could submit a help ticket as well. In terms of chat, I think I mentioned this earlier, we are examining whether it would be possible to open up chat to other constituencies. So whether it's students or parents or counselors that are using Naviance, that's certainly, we're examining whether that would be possible. Another counselor asked whether we could do kind of a webinar that's very specific for Naviance counselors. We have started to do a little bit of that, but that's certainly something that I can talk to Naviance about, and is actually a great idea for us to add for next fall. Naviance counselors do see different screens, and to my knowledge, there's not a way for them to see the same exact screens in terms of when documents have been downloaded. And I know that that would be helpful for everyone, and so that's a conversation that I would have to have with them as well. Another question was, when will the changes to the application be made public? So we are currently in the process of doing a variety of changes within the system. Most of them, I'll be honest with you, are back-end processing changes that are not necessarily going to be visible to the students or to counselors. They'll just make things work a little bit better. But as changes are made, we're keeping track of those changes, and we'll be releasing that information this summer. Another question that I felt would be very appropriate for all counselors to hear, when we were talking about the screen that counselors can see to prove that documents have been downloaded by colleges, sometimes students still get emails from colleges saying that information is missing. And the question was, is that a Common App problem? Is that a college problem? I'm going to say it's neither one. I'll be honest with you. I think that part of that has to do with a processing delay. Most colleges, after they download that information, even when they read applications electronically, they still have to process that information. So if they're scanning it into their system or it's being added to their system in some way, there's always a delay between the time that it gets downloaded into their database and the time that it's actually processed as being a particular student's information. So those emails are really meant to help the students to make sure that in that gap time when the college doesn't necessarily know that the information has been downloaded, to make sure that that information is on its way if it hasn't already been submitted. And then the final question I wanted to touch on, and then I imagine more might pop up, a counselor asked about letters of recommendation and whether students can basically select which recommendations go to which colleges. So yes, so students invite their teachers to be recommenders, and then they assign specific teachers to specific schools. So you might want to have your math teacher and your English teacher submit a recommendation to College 1, but maybe you want your history teacher and your science teacher to submit to College 2. And that's certainly something that the students can decide on their own.
Thanks, Tanya. We actually have some questions also, Kevin, about the fee waiver program here at the College Board. And one of the questions was about what college application fee waiver, no, not that one. What happens if a student misplaces their fee waivers, and can they request more?
If they misplace their fee waivers, they should always be able to go back to their online SAT account and print them. They don't disappear if the student has printed them or downloaded them. They should be always available up through, I believe, the year after they've graduated. So it should always be available to them in case they've printed out and misplaced them.
Okay. And then there was another question. If low-income students want to apply to more schools than the 4, what is the best way for them to get more funding or more fee waivers? Is it possible?
Sure. We would encourage students and counselors to discuss what additional programs they might be eligible for. In some cases, you may be able to provide fee waivers associated with the NACAC, the National Association of Secondary, forget the acronym, but the NACAC has a fee waiver program that they operate, very similar to the College Board program, so that might be something to explore. In addition, colleges are very often willing to waive fees for students that aren't able to afford them. So in some cases, it may make sense to contact colleges directly and just ask for, present the circumstances and ask if the fees would be, if they would waive the application fees.
Now, this is a question, I think it's about, you talked a little bit about the SAT School Day, and I guess they wanted to know, how do students sign up for the SAT School Day?
I believe it should be, and I'm not with the SAT program, but I believe the registration is all handled through their school and or through the district at the time of registration. I could get more information on that if it would be helpful. But in terms of the fee waivers, it would be up to the counselor and the student to identify students who are participating in school day to make sure that if they're eligible for a fee waiver, that the counselor provides the non-registration fee waiver to the student so they could get access to their free score sends and as well as their college application fee waivers.
Okay. There were some, thank you, Kevin. There were some questions about international students, Tanya, and I don't know if you saw those, but some of the questions were, for international students, when do you think it's best for them to submit the common applications using Naviance? I'm sorry, for regular decision. I'm sorry, for international students, when do you think it's best for them to submit Common App for regular decision?
I would say that all students, international or otherwise, should follow the deadlines given by the individual colleges. Some colleges will waive the application fee for all students. Some will just do it for domestic students. So that would be something that would be actually detailed within the Common App instructions about whether the application fee would be waived for international students as well. And so that's something that information be available within the individual school pages. And then I also see a question about how do students select recommenders for specific colleges through Naviance. And that's something that actually happens within the Naviance interface, that students let their counselor know, they let their teachers know which schools the individual recommendations should go to. And I know that there's some additional questions that keep popping up about the essay questions. We anticipate that the essay question information will be available either late this week or early next week, so definitely by the end of March. And that information will be posted both on our blog as well as we'll post it on Facebook and Twitter. I might scream it from the rooftops. So we're going to be sharing that as broadly as possible as soon as we have that information.
Okay, great. And maybe we could, when you get that information, Tanya, we can include that, just an announcement possibly in our online community as
super.
well. We hit several counselors on that as well. And also there was a question for you, Kevin. What is the expiration date of a fee waiver? For instance, I have a junior who used both of her SAT waivers in the winter of 2015, but will not apply to college until fall of 2015.
Okay. Yeah, I think the first thing to clarify about that is that if students are juniors and they take the SAT using a fee waiver, their status as a fee waiver user will be recorded and not lost. And so when they become seniors, they will receive their college application fee waivers via their online account. So they won't need to retake the SAT using a fee waiver in order to get access to those benefits. But secondly, the college application fee waivers will be available in students' accounts up until 1 year after their graduation date. So if they're taking a gap year or something like that, they should be able to access their fee waivers and use them to apply to colleges.
Okay, and then there was another one, I don't know, it was about fee waivers for international students. Do these fee waivers apply to international students? Do you know that, Kevin?
I think primarily the SAT fee waivers are available to domestic students, as my understanding, and so that is the basis on which we identify students that would be eligible to receive college application fee waivers, and that's primarily available to students based in the United States.
Let's see. Tanya, I think that there was a question about, and maybe you answered this one about letters of recommendation.
Yes, I saw another one of those pop up as well. The one question was how many teacher recommendations are required, or does it vary by college? It does vary by college. Some ask for a counselor letter plus one additional academic letter. Some ask for one but allow 2 or 3 letters. So it really depends on the specific needs of the of the college, and that information is listed very specifically in the college member section that the students will see.
Okay. Now, this is another Naviance question. How can you explain more on the match between Naviance and Common App?
That is something that's rather difficult to explain without having kind of visuals in front of me. I can tell you that there is a video that we put together. I worked with Sue Hallenbach, who is in charge of the Naviance product over at Hobson's, and we created a video that actually walks students through the process of creating a Common Application account and then matching their Common App account with their Naviance account. So that's something that there is a video out there, and it's not challenging for the students. The key is they need to actually use the email address that they use to create the Common Application account when they're doing the match. And sometimes that's the biggest problem.
Okay. Now, this is a question. We get a lot of private school and independent school counselors on our webinars, and they want to know, can the independent college counselors create an account with Common App?
No, they can't. Let me take that back. If a student asked for an independent counselor to serve as a recommender, then certainly they would be able to create an account if they were recommending a student. But they're not able to monitor their students' applications in the same way that a school-based counselor can do so.
Okay. I think maybe taking two more questions here, and if you see any, Tanya, help me with my eyes, or Kevin with my eyes on this, looking at the questions because the print is so small. Do you provide like mock paper? I know we're talking about rising seniors and preparing our rising seniors. Do you provide like mock paper applications? Because the one they used before doesn't necessarily mirror the current one that they have that they've used to help, I guess, prep their 10th grade and their 11th graders.
Correct, yes. So within the Counselor Resource Center, there's a link that says training resources, and so we have the most current PDF of the application included there. As we make changes or slight tweaks to any of the wording of questions, or if we add questions to the application, we will create a new PDF this summer, but certainly feel free to use the version that's posted currently with your juniors. It will get them a very good, very accurate start on the process. In terms of creating mock applications, that's actually something that we've discussed wanting to do here as one of the resources to provide. So that's something that we're giving thought to. But I can tell you that there is a blank PDF of the most current application available on our website.
Okay, thanks. One more question, and then we're going to end our Q&A section of the webinar. How can we know which colleges do not charge a fee, or is there a list of posted somewhere about the application fee? This is for Tanya, because it was asked earlier.
Yes. So that's actually available on the Common Application main page. There is a link that says members, and it allows you to pull up a full list of all of the members of the Common Application, and it provides information. The link is actually called Application Requirements. I'm pulling it up as we speak just so I can look at it. And it has a full list of all the members, and then it has a list of the application fee for both domestic as well as international students. And as I'm looking at it very quickly, there are a fair number of colleges and universities that waive the application fee for both domestic as well as international students. And so you can actually do a sort by application fee, and it will very quickly pull up all of the colleges that don't have an application fee. And so there's 217 of those schools. And then one thing I didn't mention is students are allowed to use the Common Application to apply to up to 20 schools. Once a student tries to add the 21st school onto their My Colleges page, it stops them. but a student theoretically could use the fee waiver, if they qualify for a need-based fee waiver, to submit an application to all 20 of those schools if they qualified for the need-based fee waiver.
Okay. Thank you so much. I do want to tell everyone that is listening on the webinar, this webinar is being recorded, and we will send you a link of the recording as well as the presentation of the webinar. So, and that will come, about 3 or 4 days after the webinar today. I also want to introduce some of our upcoming webinars. We still have several that will be until the end of June, until the beginning of June. The next one will be introducing the new CSS profile, which is it's so interactive and such a great resource for counselors. So please tune in to April 14th at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for that webinar. Also, we have several upcoming webinars on our for counselors and the redesign assessments. We have 3 more, and one in particular will talk about reporting and score reporting for student opportunity, as well as the Khan Academy practice, where you'll actually get to see a real-life platform of the Khan practice that we have, that we are now going to be launching in June. Also, we'll have application essay that will be in April, and then also counselors in middle schools and junior high schools will have a webinar about early college awareness. And then some of you have requested information about avoiding summer melt. So we will have a webinar about how students, once they have graduated high school, they have applied to college, they've been accepted, but something happens over the summer where they don't get to the college door and they are actually on the campus going. So we're going to have an actual district who's going to talk about their success stories with doing some partnering with higher ed institutions and so forth. Also, if you have not gotten an opportunity to join the College Board School Counseling online community, please do. We right now have about 500 counselors across the nation that are sharing information about best practices, giving ideas, they're networking. Also, we post the most up-to-date information that we get even before we send out a mailer to counselors, to member counselors. We actually post a lot of the resources on this online community. So if you get an opportunity, please join. You can see the website that's at the bottom. I added this slide at the last minute because I said, you know what, this is on our counselor community, our counselor guide for the redesign assessments. We have created a 6-section guide that talks about the changes that are happening with our different assessments, and it gives timelines, score reporting, frequently asked questions, and it also provides you with tools and resources so you can start the conversations with your students, with the teachers in the school, with parents about the redesign SAT that will launch next year. Also, if you have not joined our campaign, our For More campaign, please do so. We have about 5,000 counselors who have already committed to supporting the campaign. With this, join the campaign, you do get access to a newsletter, you get access to a lot of professional development opportunities, and there will be a survey that will be deployed this spring. And if you complete that survey and say, hey, I committed and I also helped this many students apply to 4 more colleges, you will get a PDF copy of the College Counseling Sourcebook, the 7th edition. Again, I would like to first thank Tanya and the Common App for the opportunity to present this information to our members and expand opportunity for all students across the United States. Thanks a lot, Tanya. I also would like to thank Kevin for presenting information about the College Board Fee Waiver Program, and also our webinar attendees. A link of the presentation will be sent to you. Lastly, as you log off, you will receive an evaluation. We ask that you complete the evaluation so we can get your feedback. Thanks again for joining us.